Hey, it's syndicated radio talk show host, author, singer Al Cole, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. I come from CBS Radio. My shows are nationally syndicated, and I've helped pave the way to treating women, guys too. Coming up, guy who, boy, I tell you, if you're in Central Texas, he's probably helped out your family with a ride. Yeah, now, we know at one point, hitchhiking was one of the ways to get rides. All right, so then cab drivers always available to give people a lift. And then there are companies like Lyft, Uber, that give people a ride as well. Now, this guy's name is Charles Campise. He is the author of a wonderful book, Adventures of a Rideshare Driver. So rideshare has to do with Uber these days and Lyft and all of that, where an independent person, somebody with their own vehicle, now is kind of independently contracted by Uber or Lyft or one of the other companies, and they drive people around. Yeah, they pick somebody up, and that person pays a fee just like they would a regular cab driver, and then they're dropped off at their destination. Now, I've had people who are cab drivers on my show. I've done about 2,000 interviews, and I've had cab drivers on from time to time, and truck drivers too. We do those long hauls, and they tell great stories about experiences. And I've had people who drive senior citizens around, those kind of like minibuses. But I admit it, I've never had an Uber driver on, or Lyft driver, somebody, now in that new age of using their own vehicle and driving people around. So this is going to be really a pleasure for me and also for you, my listening audience, to find out the experiences of a ride-share driver in Central Texas. And Central Texas is big, people. Texas has a huge landmass. Sometimes it takes, just driving regularly about 3 days to cross Texas. So Central Texas, that's a big landmass, and this guy, Charles, has driven a whole bunch of people, has a lot of tales to tell, and just as long as we keep the confidentiality. All right, so you, my listening audience, you listen, you laugh, you enjoy, but you don't tell. Let's see if you can do that. And his book of Adventures of a Rideshare Driver is available to you on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and he was brought to us by a great publishing company called Author Reputation Press. And if you got a book that you want to move, well, move it through Author Reputation Press. They're one of the best in the business. Go to their website, authorreputationpress.com. Welcome, Charles, to People of Distinction with Al Cole. It's a pleasure to have you on today. How are you, Charles?
Doing just fine. Thank you, Al. I'm so happy to be here. And when people get into my vehicle, I frequently introduce myself as Charlie Campise.
Look at that, Campise.
My grandparents immigrated from Sicily, from Italy.
I should have known.
In Central Texas.
Look at that. Yeah, that's a different sort of name for Central Texas, I think. Campise.
Well, it kind of is, yes.
Yeah, Italiano. I come from an area in the Northeast where there are a lot of Italians. So, Charles,
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your experiences here. Adventures of a Rideshare Driver. We're on the edge of our seats to find out what that's all about. Tell us a little bit about your book and some of your experiences.
Well, my book is a creation I put together in a short period of only 4 weeks. And I was able to do this because after my first 2 years of driving, my wife suggested that I carry in my vehicle a journal for people to place entries. They could put anything they wanted about themselves, about their trip, about their visit to the cities of San Antonio, San Marcos, or Austin in Texas. I frequently went into the journal and set up my computer, gave a title to what the people put in there, and then I was able to remember pretty much 99% of what occurred on each trip that I thought was hilarious. The book contains the funniest stories, true stories, that occurred during my first 7,000 trips with Uber and Lyft and another company, Rideshare, in Austin, Texas, and San Marcos and San Antonio. I want to make the point that my book is unique. Every person who has traveled with me, whom I have told about the book, has said, I've never heard of a driver for one of these companies having written a book about it.
Mm-hmm.
To my knowledge, there are no other books about this topic on the market yet. That makes this book unique. All of the stories in the book are very short. I do Meals on Wheels one morning a week in Austin, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 people who are also delivering meals to shut-ins like I do have purchased my book. 2 of them have told me that they have read through the book 4 times because the short stories, the vignettes, are so funny.
Wow.
All of the stories in the book are true stories except for one. And purchasers of the book, I will leave it to you to figure out which story is not true. But it's the story that my wife said her response was, "You can't say that to a woman."
Uh-oh.
And I'll leave it at that. You can figure out what story it was that I had to change.
Look at that. All right, Charles, this is gripping.
I want to make a point that when I'm driving, my experience has been now with the completion of over 11,000 trips, I have arrived to pick up my passenger, I would say 90% of the time, within 3 minutes after they request a ride.
Really?
And this happens in Austin and in San Antonio and here in San Marcos also.
All right, let's get into it here. Turn a few pages in Adventures of a Rideshare Driver. Tell us one of those gripping stories that are listed in your book.
My favorite story, the saga of the drunk freshman girls.
Oh, boy. Here it comes.
Until a year ago, I drove from 6 p.m. until 2:30 a.m. And mind you, that is a feat for me because I was born 6 weeks before the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Makes me one of the old guys in another way, besides being someone who started when these companies first opened up in the markets. So I am on a country road, pitch dark, and I drive up to a spot where someone is holding a flashlight signaling me. And as I got closer to the guy, I figured, obviously, this is a fraternity house.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed it was. There were a lot of people, many young people in the yard, and there were a few lanterns there. I waited about a minute, and 4 young ladies came staggering down the driveway and got in my car. So they get in, and they're a bit tipsy, and they were shouting at each other and laughing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the first argument they had when they got in my car was about who is going to pay what percentage of the fare that they're going to be assessed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after about 3 miles heading back towards town, they settled that. Then they started arguing about where they were going to go to get something to eat. After another 2 miles, they decided it's going to be the all-night McDonald's. So I pulled into the parking lot, and they said, "We're going in. You wait here."
Oh, no.
So they go in, they get in line, and it took them at least 10 minutes to finish their orders and come back and get in the car. The lady in the front seat said, sir, you need to know that each one of us four lives in a different dormitory. So here I go.
Mm-hmm.
The first lady got out of the back seat, stuck her head back in the car and said, I'll see you girls in church about 11 o'clock this morning. And before any of them could say anything, I said, young lady, after tonight, you need church. That happened 2 more times on that trip. On some, that was the only time of all my trips that anybody said something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I consider that one of the funniest things that happened.
Yep. Now, did they pay you?
They were assessed automatically because when they sign up with their photograph and a credit card.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you're automatically paid.
When I clear the fare, it's automatically assessed.
Yeah. Now, what
before they do clear their end of the fare, they can leave a tip if they care to on their app.
That's right.
And with some frequency, that does happen, that people do leave some tips.
Now, you said some frequency, so it's not a usual thing. It maybe 50% of the time or something?
I would say 25% of the time.
That's all? Oh, I see. Now, that's not due to you. It's due to the economy, I guess, that people, they think, well, I'm paying for this ride that might be costing me a little bit more than I wanted or something. I don't know, but it's not a reflection on you as much as it is a reflection on pocketbooks and billfolds these days, I guess, right?
That's correct. And about 80% of the time I drive in a university town.
Oh.
And about probably 90% of my passengers are college students.
Oh, boy. And they ain't got no money.
They just don't have the money to leave a tip. And I understand that.
I see. Now, this is good.
It's my personal preference to drive in a community where there's a university.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to be sure that these young people, no matter what their condition, they get home safely.
That's right.
Even at 2:30 in the morning.
Now, you sound like maybe you're a little bit of a fatherly type to them. You sound like a person who's really concerned about your passengers, and like you said, about 90% of them are college students. And many times...
Yes, I love driving the college students because they like to talk with me.
I see. Good. Yeah, that is good. What do they talk about usually?
They want to know what I did before I was a driver.
Yeah.
They want to know if I'm married, if I have children, grandchildren, how long have I been a driver.
Mm-hmm.
They also want to know if there's ever been a fight in my car.
Yeah.
And I tell them the story of what happened on the first day I was driving.
Oh, boy.
My second trip ever. That's in the book. That's quite a story.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. A lot of stuff. And they're asking about you. They take an interest. Is this something, we take an interest in younger people here on People of Distinction, even though our listening base is usually 35 plus. Younger people need that guidance, college kids.
Well, I always have a particular statement that I give to almost all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them that because to get into a university, you had to have in your resume items about community service. You're going to be, I believe, the next great generation of America.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, you came to this town for two things. You came here to get an education and to have fun safely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to help you with the second item.
And have you helped certain...
Several of them have asked me, will you be my grandfather?
Okay.
I love it when they ask that.
Yeah. Now, that is a compliment. That's a great compliment. And people, if you like this as much as I do, you've got to order this book, Adventures of a Rideshare Driver by a special guest, Charles Campise.
May I give you a couple of titles of my stories?
Go ahead.
Okay. One, of course, my first encounter with a fist fight. The Stinky Fair. That's a good one. The Cookie Runs. The Biggest Tip Trip. My First Detox Trip.
Mm-hmm.
The Landing Pad Trip. The Whataburger Incident. Let me give you two more. The History of Rainy Street. Maybe some of your listeners have been to Austin and gone to the entertainment district known as the Rainy Street.
Oh, okay.
Well, I hung my hat in that vicinity back in 1967, 68, and 69. So I can give passengers going to Rainy Street the real history of this entertainment district. And I make it a point to do that.
Yeah.
As well, in the book is a story about the Colorado River. See, there's a river in Austin, Texas called the Colorado River.
Mm-hmm.
People who know geography know that there's no Colorado River in Texas. It runs through the state of Arizona. So I give them a history lesson about how the river came to be known as the Colorado.
Isn't that something? And
This is kind of a funny story.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The map makers who named the rivers were Hispanic. They spoke Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado means red. But those of us who follow sports know that the Red River Shootout is between Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, and the University of Texas. And the Red River is the one that divides Texas from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't flow anywhere near Austin, nor does the real Colorado. The word in Spanish for red is Colorado. The map makers were wrong on their geography and on the name.
Well, look at that. Now we got it right on People of Distinction with our rideshare driver, Charles Campise. And his book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Adventures of a Rideshare Driver. Let's hear another adventure here. I guess most of them are going to be college kids who got into your car. You call it a car? Or yeah, that's good. What do you?
It's a car. Yes, I drive a Toyota Camry.
Okay.
But this is my fourth car. I've had 3 Hyundai Accents prior to this one.
Really?
Yes.
Now what happens?
The last one I ran into the ground 150,000 miles
Mm-hmm.
before I let it go.
Okay.
But I'm already collecting stories for my next book, and I want to tell a story about someone in San Marcos, Texas, who's not a college student, if I may do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. 8 p.m., before dark, because the time had not changed back to Central Standard Time. I was called to the Showdown Bar, which is a local hangout near the square in San Marcos, Texas. I pulled up, and the bartender was helping a young lady out to the car. Young Anglo lady, probably in her mid-30s, and he helped her into the back seat. And then he said, "Get this woman home safely. I have let her use my Uber app, and I'm paying for her fare." So she got in. I started up the engine. I had to wait a while, so I had turned it off. But I went to the first stop sign and stopped and turned right and went up to a light, and it was red. And here in Texas, like many places, you can do a right on red. Well, I didn't turn immediately. She said, "Well, doggone, Mr. Driver, you're wasting my money. Don't you know you can turn right on red?" So I made the right turn, and she said, "That's better." I went about 8 blocks, and she asked me another question. She said, "Has anybody ever asked you if you were mentally ill?" And I said, "No, ma'am, no one has ever asked. In fact, you're the first person that ever came up with it." We went about a mile and a half, and I stopped at a light, and I was going to turn right. Said, "Driver, don't go down Bishop Street very far. Pull right into that convenience store. I need to get a 6-pack for the evening and some cigarettes." So I pulled into the convenience store. She got out, stuck her head back in, and she said, "Do you want something to drink?"
Really?
So, yes, ma'am, I like when I'm driving to have a 44-ounce regular Dr. Pepper, fountain side, the fountain kind. So she goes in, comes out pretty quickly with my fountain drink, with a 6-pack of beer and a pack of cigarettes. She gets in, closes the door. We take off again down Bishop Street. I go about a mile, and I turn left onto a very, very dark street. Go 2 blocks and turn right onto another dark street. She said, "Pull over, this is my house." So I pulled over, and after about 45 seconds, there was no sound in the back seat. And then I heard a little bit of rustling. I said, "Ma'am, we're here at your home." And she said, "Yeah, I know, but I can't find any matches. I got to have matches to light these cigarettes. I can't go without a smoke all night long." So, rustling around for another minute. I found the matches. She opened the car door in the back seat, put one leg out of the car, one foot onto the ground, and fell back into the back seat.
Oh, boy.
So I said, "Okay, ma'am, you better try that again."
Mm-hmm.
She put her foot on the ground again and fell back into the back seat. I said, "Ma'am, this time, leave everything you bought in the seat. Have the door open, reach to the top of the door, and pull yourself up." She did that and got her stuff and walked off into the dark. I thought never again to be seen. However, I did give her a ride a month later.
Oh, yeah?
She didn't remember me. I reminded her that she bought me a Dr. Pepper. So at the convenience store, again, she said, "Pull over, I'm going to buy you a Dr. Pepper." So that was a fun thing. That's going to be in the next book.
All right. Yeah, these are... Now, was she a college student, too?
No, she was a lady in her 30s.
Yeah, okay. Now, we have just, a couple of minutes left here in the show. These are great stories. A wonderful book, Adventures of a Rideshare Driver, on the Spotlight interview. And, I want to take it out with something that involves millennials right now, or younger people, because you said that, of course, Charles, you have serviced mostly college people. And you're a senior citizen, and they're college people, and they ask you questions about your life. What, just in closing this show, I think it would be nice for our listeners to get this this reflection from you. What do you think about our upcoming generation, the college generation, the maybe even high schoolers, but, around the college area that you service? What do you think of our future here with these kids?
I think that they are motivated.
Mm-hmm.
They are motivating. They're friendly. They care about whether or not they do well for themselves, but they want everybody else to be successful too. And what strikes me is when they answer a question that I ask them, they always say, "Yes, sir," or "No, sir."
There you go.
They're extremely, and they're serious about their education.
Mm-hmm.
They like to laugh. They want to see other people happy. And I think they're going to be, like I said before, the next great generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the caring that they have for others.
Well, look at that. What a great reflection there. And, I'm going to cap things off with a reflection of my own here to underscore the great wisdom that Charles has been making throughout the show with his book, Adventures of a Rideshare Driver. A lot of comedy there, a lot of funny situations, and a lot of wisdom, too. Life wisdom where senior citizen is relating to some of our younger people, college age. And we like that on People of Distinction. On People of Distinction, this goes out to you, my listening audience, as a cap-off here. We hail all human beings, and we're part of a human family. That's one of the things that makes our show successful. People coming on from all generations, all different walks of life, all different professions, and they talk about the things that they really like and sometimes love about life. And see, that's really the magic key there. How much you love life, like the people around you, and give the people around you a chance to express themselves. Now, you heard, Charles say that the younger people that he caters to as a driver in Central Texas are people who ask him a lot of questions about his life. And when he's responding to them, and then they're responding back, they use sir. Now, we like that. Yes, sir. No, sir. That sort of thing. They're very polite. And, like young people always do, and we always did it, sometimes we party and we bounce around a little bit and maybe a drink or two. However, boy, I think we're safe with the younger generation taking over. And I just want to put in that plug for younger people through the eyes of a senior citizen. Intergenerational is what we need more and more in our society. That might be one of the biggest things that we need. We talk about other things that we can incorporate in our society. We need to incorporate intergenerational relationships where people are honoring other people from different generations, because ultimately we're all the same generation. We're contemporaneous. We were all born roughly at the same time. And we look around, we see the same sun, we see the same sky, we see some of the same situations in our lives, money-wise, romantically, with our relationships, everything. So there's so much more that we have in common than we have in difference in our intergenerational expression to each other. And People of Distinction likes that. And we like it particularly coming from Charles Campise, who wrote the wonderful book, Adventures of a Rideshare Driver. And you can order that book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And I will say
May I comment one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
On the cover of my book is a picture of me leaning my head out of the driver's seat and waving. And I'm wearing a T-shirt that has the mascot of the local university. It's the Texas State Bobcats in San Marcos, Texas, and you can fully see the replica of the mascot, the Bobcat, on the front of my T-shirt.
Well, look
I
at
did
that
to honor these students here in town.
Well, that is great, and that's a wonderful cap-off to another wonderful interview on People of Distinction with Al Cole. And remember, Charles was brought to us by Author Reputation Press. If you have a book that you want to use and you want to move, move it through Author Reputation Press at authorreputationpress.com. Thank you so much, Charles, for being my special guest here today on People of Distinction, and we all wish you all the best with your book and your life directions. Keep it up, Charles. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Al. My pleasure.